What is the Tiahrt Amendment?
Tom Tiahrt is a representative from Kansas who included restrictions in the ATF's budget starting in 2003 that restricted crime gun trace data in terms of who could have it and its use. Prior to 2003, crime gun trace data was used by law enforcement to establish patterns of gun trafficking such that efforts toward illegal gun interdiction could go upstream and toward the traffickers. In addition, policy makers and executive levels of government use the information to help focus their efforts and to create policies. And such as in New York City, we found out that 85 to 90% of crime guns come from other states with weak gun laws. We also found out that for the city of Buffalo, New York, which is way upstate, 60% of crime guns originated in the state of New York. So that can help guide policy and focus law enforcement efforts. All that information is now not available because of these Tiahrt trace data restrictions. And when you can't go upstream and shut off the source of illegal guns, it means you're waiting till somebody is dead or injured when you have a crime case that you're actually going to go after the source. And that's just too late. We want preventive steps. We want to go after the traffickers and keep illegal guns off of our streets. And sadly, the Tiahrt restrictions are getting in the way of that. Most recently, the U.S. Senate has even added provisions that would criminalize law enforcement officers who shared trace data in an effort to go after traffickers. That is simply outrageous. The idea that we would put law enforcement officers in prison for 5 years for doing their job and helping to prevent gun crime. We need to get back to some common sense gun policies in this country. I think most Americans are appalled when they hear what's going on with these restrictions. And the fact that our so-called leaders in Washington are not able to tackle this and give law enforcement and communities full access to this data is simply beyond belief. Reasons given for imposing these restrictions are that supposedly they'll prevent frivolous lawsuits. When asked to name a frivolous lawsuit, I've yet to find a lawmaker who could even cite one. They also talk about release of this data getting in the way of ongoing investigations. Again, there was never a problem of this when this information was available. And not one lawmaker who is imposing these restrictions has been able to cite a case where there was any kind of interference. And in fact, there were always measures that could be taken where if there was anything that would jeopardize an existing case, that information wasn't shared. So those are just simply bogus arguments that are thrown in the way. The real reason for doing this is to protect the gun industry. They don't want, they being the gun lobby and the politicians who are doing their bidding, don't want Americans to know where that crime guns are coming from. Crime guns don't fall from the sky. All guns were manufactured at some point. They had a beginning point that began in a legal fashion. The fact that we have just 1% of gun dealers responsible for 60% of crime guns show that if we go after that 1%, we could greatly reduce the amount of gun crime on our streets. And lawmakers who are putting these restrictions up are willing to let these gun traffickers, who are criminals by the way, if you're a gun dealer who is participating in a trafficking network, that makes you a criminal. And they're giving these criminals a pass and protecting them. And that is outrageous. When we have 30,000 gun deaths a year, we need better from our elected officials.